Okay, good evening. I think it's time. Welcome to this meeting of Development Management Committee. I'll just go through the preliminaries first. Hope my voice holds out. The meeting this evening will be live streamed meeting to the public. A recording of the public part of the meeting will be available on the council's website within 24 hours of the meeting. Don't think we need to do less than that. Members of the public wishing to listen and watch this meeting may attend in the Purchase Council chamber, live stream, etc. Don't need to do that anymore. Members of the public are entitled to take photographs, film, audio, record and report on all meetings in accordance with the openness of local government bodies, Regulation 2014. People may not, however, act in a way considered to be disruptive and may be asked to leave. Emergency evacuation procedure from the council chamber. Turn left, follow the green emergency exit signs to the main town hall entrance and to the assembly point at St George's Square. Agenda, apologies for absence. I think Councillor Zanib has called me, said she won't be able to attend.
Oh, okay, that's noted, Chair.
So, well, that's the only one. Minutes of the 23rd of October, 2024.
Yeah, before you, Chair.
Okay, sign those. Pre-record. Section 106 of the Local Government Finance Act. Any disclosures? Any disclosure of interest tonight? Either say it now or when the item's called. The only one. Urgent business, I'm not aware of any. References from committees and other bodies.
No references.
Agenda item 7 has been deferred. That's the International Wine Centre, Fuji Studios. So we'll go straight on to 181 to 193 Park Street. Gemma, over to you, page 32.
Just repeat that. So agenda item has been referred, is it?
Yeah, that's agenda item 7. The Wine Centre, Dalla Road. It will be coming back.
Okay. So the site is 181 to 193 Park Street. The application seeks the erection of a 4-storey building comprising of 19 flats, 7 one-bed and 12 two-bed. Office space together with parking, creation of an access road, a new priority junction after demolition of the existing building. There is an update report that has been circulated to members. Further to paragraph 73 of the committee report, an independent viability assessment has now been completed. The outcome concludes that the scheme cannot support affordable housing or developer contributions. However, moving forward, the agent has agreed to a viability review mechanism to be included within the Section 106 agreement. In addition to this, the wording of Condition 9 has been amended to include a trigger point for the implementation of the surface water drainage system, and the wording of Condition 12 has been amended to include a trigger point for the installation for fire hydrants. Next slide, please. Yeah, no, that slide's fine. The application site comprises a parcel of land located to the northeast side of Park Street, directly opposite the intersection with Strathmore Avenue. The predominant use of the site is for car sales, repairs and MOT. With regard to the principle of the development, the site is unallocated within the local plan and therefore is classed as an unidentified employment site within LLP 14 of the Luton local plan. In this case, the existing use is considered to be sui generic as an MOT service centre. A review of the surrounding area shows there is a wide range of MOT services centres within the surrounding area. Therefore, there will be no major effect caused by the loss of this use. Weighing up the planning balance, the loss of the lawful use of the site is considered to be acceptable as there is ample MOT facilities in the area. Further, proposed development would still offer employment use on the site in form of offices on the ground floor. Therefore, the replacement development would offer an acceptable mix of additional housing for which there is significant need, as well as maintain employment use on the site. The principle of the development has also already been established by the previously outlined permission for the same development, which was approved at Planning Committee but has since lapsed. The principle of the development is thereby acceptable. Next slide, please. The proposal offers 19 flats on the upper floors. The main issues of the site related to the impact of the neighbouring site's development, viability and assessing the concerns raised by the lead local flood authority. The applicant has engaged with the council in the in-app process to resolve these issues. The development would comprise a 4-storey building with the top floor set back. This would be consistent with the largest buildings within the vicinity, particularly across the road at Green Dragon Court, Strathmore Avenue. To maintain separation between the ground floor office use and the upper floor's residential uses, the entrances are accessed on different elevations. The office element fronts Park Street and occupies the whole of the ground floor, providing active frontage and retaining the employment element of the site. The residential flats would be accessed from the southern side of the site, and vehicular access would be from the northern part. Next slide, please. The site is not bound by any buildings within the immediate vicinity. However, it is noted that the Prolodge's warehousing scheme has recently been approved by the local planning authority to the rear of the site. The applicant has engaged with the in-app process to provide further details, including the assessment of the Prolodge's scheme. The applicant has since provided amended plans as well as supporting daylight assessment reports to support their scheme. This daylight assessment concludes that all units on the northern elevation will provide the development's future occupiers with adequate levels of natural light. With regard to the ground floor, the bin storage has been separated, so there is a clear distinction between the commercial storage to the northern elevation and the residential storage on the southern elevation. The design ensures that the residential access on the southern elevation includes access to the building, the bin store and the cycle store, as well as access to the rear parking area. This slide shows the layout of the first and second floors. All of the flats meet the nationally described space standards and all achieve or exceed the external amenity space set out in section 51 of the report. A review of the Prolodge's scheme noted that the western elevation of the consented warehouse does not comprise any openings aside from fire escape doors. As such, there's no potential for the scheme to give rise to loss of privacy to future residents of the development hereby proposed. With regard to outlook from the rear eastern boundary facing the warehouse development, whilst it is acknowledged that some of the units are single aspect, namely flats 7 and 14, which are both 1-beds, the remainder of the units are all dual aspect. Living areas for flats 1, 6, 8 and 13 are all focused on the front and side, providing amenity spaces facing away from the consented warehouse. Despite flats 7 and 14 being single aspect, these flats are able to achieve the suitable daylight and sunlight levels as outlined in the supporting assessment. Therefore, the development is now considered to provide appropriate amount of natural light to all units. Next slide, please. Flats 15 and 19 on the 3rd floor, while situated to the rear of the building, also provide views and openings and large private amenity to the north and south elevations. The flats on the 3rd floor also benefit from larger roof terraces as private amenity space. With regard to viability, at the time of writing the committee report, verbal confirmation of the viability assessment had been obtained. However, as discussed in the update, the final written assessment has now been received and confirms that the development cannot support affordable housing or developer contributions. Given that the principle of the development was accepted by the previously approved scheme and the proposal offers a sustainable and high quality form of mixed use development, providing much needed residential units, when weighing up the material planning considerations, the proposed benefits of the scheme are considered to outweigh the lack of contributions. With regard to the lead local floods concerns for surface water drainage, the applicant has provided additional information through the in-app process. The lead local flood have confirmed that they have removed their objection subject to the pre-commencement condition regarding detailed surface water drainage systems. A suitably worded condition has been included within Appendix 1, and this has been agreed by the applicant. For those reasons set out within the report, it is considered that the development comprises a suitable and high quality scheme. The principle has been accepted by the previously approved development, and the agent has engaged with the councils in that process to overcome and justify the concerns outlined above. Therefore, on the basis of the foregoing, the scheme is recommended for approval. Thank you.
Joe Reid, I presume that you're the agent.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so you've got up to 5 minutes to speak in support of your application.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm the planning agent here on behalf of the applicant, Timeless Design and Build. I'll try not to repeat too much of what Gemma has gone through in her presentation and what's in the report, but provided more of a sort of general overview in the context of the previously consented scheme. So this scheme seeks to deliver 19 flats comprising 7 one-bedroom and 12 two-bedroom homes, as well as Class E office space on the ground floor. It follows on from a previously consented scheme, which was approved at committee in 2020 for the same development and the same number of flats. Although in large part the development as currently proposed reflects what has been currently approved, the current proposal does seek to make improvements to the design and living standards, providing a housing mix that better aligns with the council's aspirations and increasing the number of larger two-bedroom homes. So that's an increase from two bed 4 persons to 8 2-bed 4 persons. Other minor alterations, including the fenestration, detailing and arrangements, are due to internal reconfigurations and the intention to enhance the living standards to all flats. This application is submitted in detail and has sought to address all relevant technical points. Throughout the duration of the application, the applicant has worked closely with the council under the in-app process to ensure positive improvement to the development proposals has been achieved. We hope the members of the committee are able to support the officer's professional recommendation and grant permission for the proposed development. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions to the applicant's agent? No, thank you very much. You can stand down. Oh, I suppose stay there. Members, questions by members. Question.
No, I've got a comment.
Oh, comment.
No question.
Yeah, Lee, question.
Sorry, Chair. This is questions for the officer, is it? Sorry. Yeah, thank you. Just a questions on paragraphs 32 and 33. Paragraph 32 refers to the addition of a condition in relation to LLP 37. And then paragraph 33 mentions that requirements of LLP 25, 31 and 37 are shown to have been met. I couldn't find any reference to low carbon or carbon zero energy sources having been assessed or reviewed. And I can't see any reference to the mentioned condition. So please, could you clarify that for me?
While you're looking, perhaps I can help. Have we got a sustainable condition on this application? So if we don't have full details, we usually do provide it through a condition, further details to be provided. So I'm just going to look, see if we have included that.
Yeah, I did look for that and I couldn't see it, but maybe you could.
No, it hasn't been included as a condition, but potentially something we could add.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. My question relates to building regulations part M, in part of the in relation to this application. What standard, whether any accessibility standards are being met within these dwellings, and if so, which ones? Is it referring to M41 or M42? Neither, or is it at least meeting the lifetime home standards?
So in terms of the standards, it's meeting the nationally described space standards. Currently in our local plan, we don't have anything that specifies the wheelchair access, but which is currently under review and may be considered in the future. It may be a question for the applicant if they can accommodate that in any of the flats on the site, although it is noted that none of the flats are on the ground floor. They're all upper floor flats. If you can assist with that.
Yeah, there is a lift elevator. So although none of the flats are on the ground floor, there is wheelchair access via the elevator. In terms of building regs, yeah, they'll be built to the relevant standards. I think that's M42 is my understanding. But yeah, if there's any sort of further detail on that, then I have to.
So with M42, is it accessible and adaptable?
I think it's accessible.
So visitable, just accessible
Yeah.
and it's not, okay, so it's just M41 with some M42 features. So with that, the access into the building, the front door, often what happens is that although you have a lift, is the lift wide enough to fit a wheelchair in comfortably? And also, is the door, is it a heavy door? Is it, is there a button if there is a wheelchair user that is going to be living in these flats, are they able to get in and out comfortably?
So the intention is that it's big enough for wheelchair access, yeah, and I assume that the intention is there to have buttons and whatever else it might be at a level where people in wheelchairs will be able to use it.
Thank you.
Yeah, it'd be pretty pointless if you had the lift access that wasn't accessible to a wheelchair. There's no point. But I think the majority that I've seen are deliberately designed to be wheelchair accessible lifts.
Yeah, I have a comment, if I may, Chair. I think the only reason why I asked that is because, unfortunately, there are a number of properties still available where the actual dwellings will be accessible to wheelchairs fully, but then the access into the building won't be. There is a lot of the times I hear that from disabled people in my day job, day in, day out. So that's why I specifically asked that question. So thank you.
Any further questions? Comments? Councillor Franks?
Okay, so we've got yet another residential development, which is not including any affordable housing. My concern, apart from that, is this is a very substantial redevelopment of a site which is fairly close to the river. There is no doubt at all in my mind that there will be some evidence of early settlements or habitats. And I note that the last consent for this site had an archaeological survey condition attached. That was a desktop study that was required at that stage. I'm not sure that that's sufficient, but I do believe we need an archaeological survey condition. I'm quite happy to leave the actual wording of that condition to the head of development management. And I just hope that he will consult with local heritage and history groups in deciding exactly what that condition should require. So I'm asking for an additional condition, please, for an archaeological survey, terms of which to be decided by the head of development management.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a reasonable condition to apply. Yeah. Everyone agrees? Clive?
Following on from that and not wishing to seem melodramatic or anything, but there could be a chance, and a very, very remote chance, there could be an unexploded bomb or two on this site. And no, Second World War, Vauxhall was bombed, and afterwards they were digging bombs up left, right and centre. And when they're doing the archaeological survey, to bear in mind there might be a bomb or two on that site.
I'm sure that when they start digging, they'll find a bomb if there is one there. Any further comments? There being no further comments, then I'll move to the recommendation, which is laid out in the report for approval. That's with the additional condition.
With the additional condition. Thank you.
Seconded, Chair.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to the vote now. The Councillor Ambler's just come in and he can't take
Yes.
part.
Okay, thanks, Chair. Right. Councillor Alia Khan,
4.
Councillor Gisola,
4.
Councillor Bridget,
4.
Councillor Farouk, 4. Councillor Franks,
4.
Councillor Hanif,
4.
Councillor Mead,
4.
Councillor Steer,
4.
Councillor Taylor.
4. That's carried in. The planning permission has been granted. Okay, we'll go on to the next item, which is the infrastructure report. Page 61. We've got somebody presenting now, haven't we?
Yeah, it's Mayor Lisa from Capita.
Okay, is she online?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see if she's there.
Yep.
Good, I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
So-
If you're
Ready when you are.
okay. So this is an annual report that we provide. I've attended this meeting I think this is the 5th year. I'm from Capita. My name's Melissa Hardy. So we've been appointed by the council to do this piece of work, which will be sort of led by the monitoring officer going forward. So if you could move to the next slide, please. And again. The infrastructure funding statement is required by government to be published by councils every year. So all local authorities in receipt of developer contributions, should it be Section 106 or SIL, need to produce this infrastructure funding statement. So within Luton, it is a summary of all Section 106 agreements relating to income and expenditure across the relevant service areas. So as I mentioned, this is the 5th one produced by the council, and it relates to the activity in the financial year 2023-24. And again, there is a requirement to publish this document by the end of that year, so by the end of December 2024. There's the extensive sort of data collection exercise that has informed the report, and it helps identify trends in the Section 106 allocations as well as any unspent funds. And as I mentioned, sort of the monitoring officer will also track the spend deadline on these as well, which once contributions are received, they should be spent within 5 years. So next slide, please. So just a little bit of background on the Section 106 agreements, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. It is a planning obligation, which is a legal charge on land, which aims to mitigate the impact of a development proposal to make a development that's considered unacceptable acceptable through financial or in-kind contribution, which should be directly and proportionate to the development itself. Within Luton, there are a number of categories or service areas where Section 106 is agreed and collected, which is affordable housing, highways and transport facilities, sustainable transport, open space, parks and play facilities, education, libraries, museums, economic development and skills funds, public art and monitoring fees. Next slide. So the IFS, or the infrastructure funding statement, is a document really to track all spending across the year, which requires engagement with the planning department, development management officer, service areas and the finance team who have responsibility for the document. It provides an overview of the contributions that have been agreed, received, allocated or spent over the last financial year. And the data is reported as the most robust and accurate available at the time of publication. It does represent estimations, I guess, at some point as we move through the planning process. The amount agreed sometimes may change due to viability or different reasons. So as I say, it captures a point in time, which I'll explain kind of as we go through some of the figures. So there is a background in terms of the process and obligations, contributions that have been made, agreements that have been made. So that's contributions that have been agreed but not yet received. As again, there will be different triggers involved to collect these at different times. Contributions received within the financial year, which includes both financial and non-financial, allocated to various projects, and then funds that are spent within on projects within specific service areas. Next slide. So the income and expenditure overview. Last year, from 22-23, the council held over 4.5 million in Section 106 funds. The latest balance at the end of March 24 was, as you can see there, just under 4.1 million, which is a cumulative figure. That's of funds accrued over the years. So on any unspent funds will remain in those various pots relating to the service areas. So this is actually probably the first year since reporting that the figure, well, we'll see again in the graph, but the funds has dropped the latest balance. The total received in 23-24 is 685,419, and then spent across various projects was just over 1.2 million. We move on to the next slide, please. And this provides a breakdown of Section 106 agreements that were signed in 23-24. So those are ones, as I mentioned, were agreed, but the money has not yet been collected. So this lists the monetary contributions, and as you can see, that's the various totals that were taken in across the service areas there, bringing it to just over 5.8 million. There's also a number of non-monetary obligations secured, which included 4 applications relating to affordable housing delivery on site, public art and noise management plan, which was agreed at Luton Airport, and 10 applications have agreed employment skills, procurement and training strategy, which again works in the local area to recruit and train people in various construction or operational jobs, as well as procurement for local goods and services. Next slide, please. So this graph shows since we started reporting in before that actually, from 2017 to the current year, and the balance, as I mentioned, is just over 4 million, with over 685,000 funds received and 1.2 million spent. So as I sort of mentioned there at the beginning, this is the first year since we've been reporting that the amount spent has actually exceeded the money received in income. Next slide. So in terms of the funds received, 2 applications attributed to a total of just over 500,000 there in financial contributions, and additionally 115,000 was received in monitoring fees, which 12 applications accounted for this figure, with contributions ranging from 5 to 20,000. And there is a requirement within the IFS to publish application references associated to the various payments. Again, it promotes transparency for the council and for members of the public to see how money is being collected and what it's been spent on. So the details of those applications are in the report itself. If we move on to the last slide, please, which just really captures historically, the money agreed, received and spent since 2019. So that's again every financial year, the figures there. So you can see again the pattern sort of figures, and it puts sort of this year's figures as well in context with previous years. So I'm happy to answer any questions on this.
Okay, thanks for that. Questions? Any comments? Councillor Franks.
Yeah, just to thank you really, because I recall when we looked at these figures last year, we did ask for more detail. And I think it's worth us saying thank you to the officers for providing that, because this report's telling us a lot more than we were told before.
Absolutely. Alia?
Thank you, Chair. I guess my question is around, so when a Section 106 funding comes in, say if there's, I don't know, an application in, I'm just going to use this as an example. So if there's an application in Dallow and a huge a huge amount of Section 106 agreement is given, I just had a question. I guess I did research this before I came in, but I think for the benefit of everyone else in the committee, why is that Section 106 money not then reinvested back into the ward, and why it's put into a wider pot, and why then it is the council that decides where it's being used? So sometimes it's used in a completely different ward. So that would be really useful to know.
Well, sorry, just to say, I guess the purpose, first of all, I'm not an officer, I guess, working in the council, in terms of sort of the specific cases of this, but in terms of the Section 106 agreements, generally they will be, when the agreement is made, they need to be sort of really proportionate and directly related to the development. So when the Section 106 agreement has been made, it is justified really by being put into place to make the development acceptable. So there will be details in the Section 106 agreement what the agreement will fund, and that is generally related to the development. So I think that should, so although we're reporting on the final figures, there is more specific detail behind each of these Section 106 agreements, and that has also been tracked in terms of how they will be spent. So that should align in the process in terms of what is agreed relating to a specific project, and then that's how it's delivered on the ground. I think I've got Sonny as well as just.
Oh, where is he?
He's in screen here as well.
I couldn't see him in the audience. I thought he's having a night off. Sonny?
Yeah, I think, just to help members, and Nelly's is absolutely right. And I'm sure Stephen and Sparshot and Clive Inwards were going to come in as well. So when the council agrees Section 106 obligations with developers, it's bound in legislation, and the place where the legislation sets this out is Regulation 122 of the Infrastructure Levy Regulations 2010. And there's 3 tests. So when the council agrees a Section 106 agreement with a developer, it needs to be necessary to make the development acceptable in planning terms. It needs to be directly related to the development. And lastly, it needs to be fairly and reasonably related in scale and kind to the development. So whilst I can see the benefits in securing contributions and spending those contributions more locally, say in Dallow Ward, the council are obliged to apply the legislation to how the money is spent or the contributions are spent. And if it cannot be justified that it is spent locally in Dallow Ward, and that a wider benefit needs to be secured that benefits the rest of the borough, then that's why the contributions are spent in that way. And obviously Stephen Sparshott is all over this when he is agreeing the final details with the developer on the Section 106 legal agreement, and he ensures that the right clauses are included, and we are held by the developer to spend in accordance with the legislation as well. So hopefully that helps members with that question.
Thank you, Sunny. I think that clarifies it a little bit for me. So essentially you're telling me if there is development in my ward and I want the Section 106 to be reinvested, then I need to lobby to government and take it up with them and not with our local authority.
I think I'm happy with the Section 106 money being spent where it's needed within the town.
Okay.
Because you could probably, the town centre, you get an overload of development and not know what to do with the money, but at least it's spread around. I know it's the education. It's spent over various schools across the borough. Any further questions or comments?
So sorry, can I just end or add to this conversation? Many councils utilise SIL rather than Section 106 to obtain contributions, or in addition to obtaining Section 106 contributions. And SIL allows greater flexibility in terms of pooling resources and spending it within the borough. We as a council decided a few years ago that we wouldn't go down the SIL route, but that could be an option in the future if members so wish.
I think we're happy with the current arrangements. We haven't not used the SIL, and we're quite happy with Section 106s. Francis?
Can you just explain what SIL is?
Special Infrastructure Levy. I'm trying to think of the details myself now. Yeah.
I think whilst we are happy with the current setup of the Section 106 agreement, I don't think we should necessarily disregard the consideration of actually using SIL in the future. I think it's something that could be very useful.
Well, you can get the benefit. Use either, yeah.
Yeah, so I think going forward, if there is an opportunity in planning applications that are coming forward, if we could also consider SIL.
Any further questions or comments, Councillor Ambler?
Thank you, Chair. I have a question on page number 74. You mentioned total 106 expenditure during 23rd and 24th. In regards to open space budget, it received a very tiny amount compared to other sector. I believe this open space relate to the park and the play area. What I seen is across the town, all these play area, outdoor activities are not maintained properly, and I've been told by the council they're saying lack of because they have to focus on other essential service. So, is there anything we can assign more funding on outdoor maintenance, outdoor activities from S106 amount? Because we may get directly funding on education from the education board and roads and highways, like different sources. But parks and outdoor activities are very less source of fund. So is there anything we can focus on about outdoor activities, investment, play area, and etc.? Thank you.
Yeah, I thought the heading came under parks and open spaces. You don't get much open space for 5,000, do you? Any comment?
Yeah, I can probably help, Chair. I think we can only, as planning officers, enter or sort of agree, negotiate 106 when the relevant services put their request in. So we'll consult when we get a major application with all the relevant services, but it is down to them to request the funds. and if they don't, we can't pursue it. So I think it's probably there is a piece of work to do around with the open space park service in terms of them actually requesting funds. Where they have done, we've sought those. I think from Napier Gateway we received funds, and also from development of Venue 360. So we will pursue it, but we need the services to ask for the funds.
Yeah, it's the old adage: if you don't ask, you don't get. But I think we would be, if they want to come forward and say we'd like more money for parks, I'm sure that we can accommodate that.
Thank you, Chair. Just I think to summarise the difference between SIL and 106. So SIL is essentially a land tax. Your number of bedrooms, you plug it into the computer, however many houses, and that will tell you how much per bedroom in each house you owe to education, transport, etc., etc. Our calculations aren't dissimilar, because obviously the bigger the house, the more potential people, the more people at schools, etc., etc. So that's still section 106, as has been said, it's got to be relevant, necessary, in scale and kind and proportionate and so on. It boils down to planning harm. Is this new development thing demand on the local infrastructure such that that local infrastructure needs a contribution, whether, for example, it's a new roundabout, or whether it's new places at schools? But the schools, the barrel is small, admittedly, but the evidence is important, and that's what the consultees have to provide. They have to say, well, this development will cause this, and therefore the evidence for the harm that development is causing creates additional swings and slides in this park, which those people are likely to use because it's around the corner. Same applies to primary schools and secondary schools. You know, obviously the nearer the school, the more likely it is that the children from that development will go there versus a school on the other side of the borough. Luton being small, it's very different from a county where north and south, it'd be unreasonable to require a 106 contribution for a school that's 20 odd miles away, for example. So that's, I think, generally the difference. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah. Okay. Any more questions, comments? Well, thank you very much for the information, the annual report, and we look forward to next year. So with that, that's the end of the business of the meeting tonight, and I'll see you all on the 16th, which is a Monday. Don't get confused by the change of day. It probably will confuse me as well. But the sole item on the agenda is the football stadium, and we can determine that in one evening. Jakob?
Yeah, I think there was one meant to be on the 9th, but just had an email from Debbie Jane said that the tentative one on the 9th is not happening.
Yeah, we put an extra date in because we weren't sure what we had on the agendas, and we did want to have a meeting specifically for the stadium, but it's worked out okay. And that meeting on the 16th with the stadium will be the only item on the agenda. Okay.